Hey, this is Stacia, and today we're going to look at a USCF rated tournament game that I played at the Parma Chess Club, and this was August 24th of 2021, so for me 2 days ago, for you guys shortly after that. All right, well, this first game I faced Jeffrey Jiminian, so a regular customer. I see him often, especially in round one at Parma, and his rating has fallen quite a bit. I mean, he's been as high as 1680, but currently he's about 1450, and he had white. So on move one, he already shocked me. I was like, what? He always plays c4. I've never seen him play d4 ever. So he played this. I went d5. He went e3, so kind of a modest looking setup. So I go knight f6 against this to develop my king side, and then he played c4. So I was happy to see this move because this does mean that I can take the pawn and go into a queen's gambit accepted e3 line, because basically it transposed from this position. Queen's Gambit accepted, e3, knight f6. And we have the exact same position. Wait, what? Okay, there we go. It didn't go to the move all the way. Okay, bishop takes c4. So that's sort of the point of playing that e3 pawn upline, is to recapture e6, knight f3, c5. So white really shouldn't take that pawn because I trade queens with a better position, so they don't do that. Knight c3. Usually they castle, but I'm sure that's fine. It's not always clear that the knight belongs on c3, but I think like the winds are changing, and I've heard some talk that knight c3 is now said to be okay, I guess, at least in some scenarios. And that white can still get an advantage, but okay. Castles, b5. This is why I played a6. So a lot of times they will stop this move with a4, which might even be best. I'm going to check what the computer says about it. Okay, castles and a4 are about the same. Castles actually is a little bit sharper, like it has more results than a4, but a4 has more draws but less wins for black. So, and the computer says, the engine says it likes castles slightly, and then it likes a4. So that's kind of interesting. It also likes bishop d3 a little bit, but it already says black slightly better there. All right, so castles b5. He went back to e2, which I think is perfectly fine. Bishop b7. And now he took the pawn. So I think it's a little better now to take. I mean, I still will get to recapture with tempo, which is nice. Like recapture in one move. But when I trade, I am bringing his rook to the center. But I did do this in the game. He played a3, which I guess the computer doesn't like that much. I'm not sure why, though. So, and I should turn off the engine. Okay, let's turn it off. So what would be better for white? I wonder what the computer wants here. Couldn't possibly want a4 right now, could it? Maybe it just wants b3. I don't know, though, because a3, you get the tempo back when you hit this bishop. So, honestly, I'm not totally sure what the computer is going to say, but let's find out. So it likes knight d4 and knight d2. So this, and it looks like in both lines, the knight, whoops, did not mean to do that. It looks like in both lines, the knight comes to b3, which is kind of interesting. So something about putting the knight on b3 I mean, I could see the knight coming to c5, but then it's strange to put the knight in front of the pawn. I have to see what's going on here. Hang on. All right, so, okay, I would probably castle. It says knight b3. I would probably go bishop b7. Computer doesn't even like bishop b7. Wow. It says it likes this better, but I would go here just to see. And then it says knight a5. Wow. So this is the idea. So this is something new that I haven't seen in these lines yet. Apparently the knight goes on a excursion to the a5 square attacking my bishop. It's kind of interesting. And I have nothing better than bishop c8. Wow. Bishop c6 is c6. Bishop c6 is slightly worse. Doesn't even want to take it right away. Wants to go here first. So pretty interesting. But you know what I notice about this situation is that it's kind of annoying to leave it like this because I cannot develop my knight now. If I develop my knight, I hang my bishop. So this is kind of annoying. And you know what, and then what do you do? Like, do I go rook c8? I can't bring the other rook here like I would want to. So this is kind of disruptive. And sure enough, it says white has an advantage there. So pretty cool line. I always like to learn new things when I analyze. So that's a middle game plan for white. But he played a3. I think this move is fine. I mean, computer says you have to play that other way. It's the only correct way, you know, like. All right, knight c6, b5, bishop b7. Bishop b2, castles. And what we have here is, well, what appears to be a pretty even game. Like, I might say that white is slightly better because it's their turn. So, but otherwise, well, they do have a rook on the d file as well. So maybe I would say white's slightly better here, but certainly this looks equalish and a little bit dry. So I was very curious what Jeffrey would do here because it's time for a middle game plan. And I wasn't really sure what he would do. Now, I thought, what did I think? I thought rook ac1 was maybe an idea, just bring the other rook to the center. I also thought, let's see. Yeah, I also kind of like this move, which he did play, because you could then go for knight e4. That's an idea, and then maybe even come in here. It's possible. So anyway, the computer likes knight to d2. And what a surprise, knight d2, knight b3, and does the knight stay there? I'm looking down the line a little bit. It's not clear. So, but apparently the computer thinks this is one of the best ways to play, which makes sense. So black pushed their b5 pawn, so that means there's holes on c5 and a5. So the computer immediately wants to take advantage of that. So I think that's pretty interesting. Probably means that the same idea exists for black, right? Like I could do the same thing. So, okay, but Jeffrey went here. I figure I should bring my rook to the center. It's absolutely correct. And he went bishop c2. So I guess he just wanted to switch diagonals for his bishop. He must have felt there was no future with the bishop on f3, which is what I normally see. So this is a little different. But it is aimed at my king side now, and it does control that square, which I think is a good thing. So sure enough, the computer wants knight to d7. So I'm definitely taking note of that. I'm going to see positions like this again. There's just no doubt about it. Yeah, and I definitely think this plan is, you know, a thing. Instead, I decided to try and double rooks. Now, Now, I'm not going to succeed in doubling rooks. I thought, you know, if he takes, that's just fine. Knight d7. If he brings the other rook, you know, I could move my knight or play rook d8. And it just seems equalish still. And hey, I have the black pieces. So I thought this was fine. Yeah, he didn't bring his rook over. He played this move, knight e4. So, yeah, this made me a little nervous during the game because I thought if I went knight b6, wow, I'm kind of surprised that I did choose what the computer wants. I mean, it's possible he could go here, and then if I take, he takes. Nah. And there's nothing to be scared of there, never mind. I actually thought he might be able to infiltrate in d6 in some lines. I definitely saw that, but maybe not. I don't really know. Rook to d8, rook to d1. Oh yeah, the rook has to be there in order to do that. Knight b6. Okay, so apparently I found the right circuit for my knight, so that's good. Okay, he trades rooks. I do not think I should take with a bishop. Let's see if I can remember why. Why? I think it's because of knight c5. But I guess even this is fine. I can play bishop c8, and white has a tiny edge, and that's it. Probably from going first once again. So no need to fear that, but it's better to take with the knight, I think. Knight to d2, okay. So, you know, in this part of the game, I think black has a couple goals, and probably white has pretty much the same goals. I want my pieces to be on good squares. I want them to be active. I do not think I have to worry about any back rank anymore. There's no rooks, there's no queen. So we don't have to spend time moving pawns on the king side. I just need to find good squares. So like, I would love to put my knight here, but for the moment, I'm not going to do that. And I need good spots for my bishops as well. Preferably stable spots. And in addition, I have seen plans where we try to play on the queen side, and it usually involves like an a5 break. So the bishop on e7 actually helps with those plans, because if I go a5 and he takes, then you can see that I'm pressuring the a3 pawn. So I had these ideas in mind as we continued. So I put the bishop in the center. It's taking more control of c4. He went there attacking my knight. And I figured I had to jump in c4 here, but it's actually not true. Computer, I mean, all these moves are fine, but the computer just seems to prefer knight d7 or knight c8. So avoiding trades. Just kind of fascinating. Now, I thought knight d7 just looked silly because, I mean, where's my knight going? I'm not sure where this knight is going, but maybe there's like an f6 e5 plan. So maybe our knight is serving that role. Maybe our knight is also sort of preparing against this idea. So just some stuff to think about. But I did jump in, which I think is fine. He took, I took. Okay. Yeah, and I kind of like this idea that he played e4. What he's doing is taking away the square from my bishop, and next he's going to go knight d2. I'm pretty sure that's what he had in mind. And if he successfully takes my bishop, I won't have two bishops anymore, and he will. So that should be an edge for him, like maybe an advantage. And also my pawns will be split, which makes them weaker, and he will still have a queenside majority. And his passed pawn will be farther out than mine, so I actually think white would be doing quite well if he successfully completes that plan. So I needed to stop it. Let's see what I did, because I don't remember. Okay, I brought in my knight. That attacks his bishop, so he moved it away. Yes, and this was my plan. So I was like, well, it's time to go a5. a5, and pawn takes. So notice that a5 attacked this pawn again. So that's attacked a lot of times. So he has to do something about that. Even guarding it doesn't work. It's attacked 3 times. So I think this move is kind of forced. And then knight takes a5. So now, if this move, which I thought he was going to play, I did have a couple weird moves in mind here. I was honestly thinking about playing bishop a2. It looks funny, but I'm happy to see it's the second move by the engine. The other one is bishop e2, which keeps control of this square. It's kind of annoying. But I would imagine that white would have no trouble going f3. So I'm curious about this. Like, I didn't play this because of f3. And it says, oh, don't worry about f3 because we check. Oh yeah, I did see something like this during the game. Yeah, so this actually looks good. And if he can't go f3, then it's hard to get the king in. Like f4 is the same scenario exactly. So that justifies this move. It's a good move then. I thought here, there's really no way for him to take my bishop with a knight. He could trade bishops, but that would be, if that's worst case scenario, then I'm okay with that. But for some reason in the game, he did not play that move. Yeah, he went here and, wait, what's going on? I went too far ahead, sorry. a5, pawn takes a5, knight takes, yes, and instead of knight to d2, he went this way to attack the bishop. And here, yeah, I remember. I thought I was willing to give up my bishop here because I thought I would win a pawn. Let's see if I was right. So I actually did play the move f6, which is the top engine move. He did take. Wait, did he take? No, he didn't. Now, if he takes, I think I'm sitting pretty after this, right? Like, the bishop has to move and I win a pawn, as far as I can tell. I could probably even take with the bishop now, because if he were to trade, I'm just winning now. I think I'm just winning. It's going to be very hard to stop my pawn. So there was that. But he actually didn't take the bishop. He went knight to d3. And yeah, I played king f7. So I'm happy to see that's the top engine move again. I mean, I figured, okay, you know, most likely I didn't get anywhere with this operation. There's going to be trades. I'm going to need my king up. And maybe if my king gets to the queen side first, maybe then, I guess I have to go this way. But maybe then I'll have chances still. You know, when you're playing someone like almost 300 points lower rated than you, a draw is not optimal. You know, you still lose rating points. So I wanted to try to keep my chances alive. Knight to b4. Yeah, and here the engine says I have better chances if I play knight e5. Yeah, I wasn't sure I should allow this. So this is interesting to me. Like, I was like, oh, am I going to double my pawns? You know, I get the 2 bishops though. And the computer says, who cares about pawns? The 2 bishops are best. and it gives black a slight edge. So that's pretty interesting. And something that I'm learning more and more. Like, I think my rule, like, no one taught me this, but what I've been seeing a lot and what I think about the bishops is that the two bishops are worth less than a pawn, the two bishop advantage, but more than structural defects. So if you have structural defects like this, but you have two bishops, the two bishops like make up for it and then a little extra. But if you give up a whole pawn for the two bishops, you're still a little bit worse. Now every position's different, but that's sort of my rule of thumb that I'm going by these days. Well, it's a brand new rule of thumb, but okay. So unfortunately I took, now trades, make the game more equal. If we trade everything, the pawns are identical, the kings, I don't think it matters that my king's on f7 because once I go here, there's no way to infiltrate the white position. I don't think even an active king isn't going to do much, so I tried to gain some space on the queen side. In hindsight, I'm not sure I love this move. I honestly think I should keep my pawns flexible because we're probably going to trade a set of bishops. And depending on what set it is, I'll want my pawns on a certain color. So this might have been a little much. Computer says it's totally fine. King e6. Yeah, trying to grab more space again. I was considering, going for g5 and then maybe like f5 and g4. I don't know if I would actually do it, but at least I would have the option. Okay, so here he decided that he wanted to trade, and I'm pretty much forced into it. I can't let him take my pawn, so I took here. And of course, here's the thing about tournament games, especially rapid games. This position is totally equal. I knew it was totally equal, but I had like 1 minute on my clock and my opponent had like 12 minutes. So, I gotta stop doing this. So I think after I make these videos, because I'm gonna make all three, play 3 games. You guys will see the next one tomorrow, by the way. But it's time I take my time management seriously, and I need to start training and build the habit of not only checking the clock, because I don't check the clock, not nearly enough, not until it's too late, and also to maybe try to use the clock against other people. I think I'm capable of doing that, but currently I'm not, because if I stop thinking about it, I'll just start spending time on my moves, because that's what I've trained myself to do. And I'm good at doing that. I can spend lots of time looking at all kinds of things that maybe I don't need to. So my point is that white had an advantage here because he had a huge advantage on the clock. And, some people go as far as to say, like, 2 minutes up on the clock is worth a pawn, or even more than that. So unfortunately, it went like this. And in this position, all I need to do is make sure to defend my pawns. This pawn is actually protected on its own. There are no infiltration squares for the white king and no way to make infiltration squares. So I think, I don't even have to worry about my pawn. On the other hand, white does have to worry about their b4 pawn. So they're going to need the king or the bishop to defend that at all times. So I should try to keep my bishop on this diagonal, but at the same time, watch this pawn and this pawn. Maybe I push this up so it's easier to protect all my pawns. And then I actually think maybe the best plan for me would be to just simply go king f6, g5, king g6, and king h5, and just protect this, because if he ever does take, I want to be ready to have my king protect whatever's left over here. But that's even a moot point because I could possibly take that way. So I think if I do that, and then my bishop protects this pawn, and I just, you know, go here and go back and forth, there's nothing white is going to do. It's going to be a draw. Unfortunately, when I had seconds left on my clock, I played a very bad move. I played this move, I think it was. And no, not that move. That's worse than what I did. Okay, I'm going to make a waiting move really quick. So let's go here. No, that's not a waiting move. Let's go here. And then in this position, I went bishop h6, dropping my pawn. So I still think it's a draw. I do think it's a draw, but now white has like a double advantage, a time advantage and a pawn advantage. So in the end, I didn't lose on the board, but I did lose on time. So that was pretty tragic, and that's going to cost me a lot of rating points. But I think maybe that's what I needed to take my time management more seriously. So just to wrap up, I will tell you that before the very end, this was a very well played game by both sides. The computer actually says, you guys probably can't see it, but it says that I played with a 9 average Centipawn loss, and that my opponent had 1 inaccuracy and a 9 average Centipawn loss. It gave me 0 inaccuracies, 0 mistakes, 0 blunders. But of course, I think I blundered twice because I dropped a pawn and I let my time get way out of hand. So I think that counts as a blunder too. So there you go. I'll be back with the next game. So I'll see you soon. Bye.